In this video, we're going to break down the Avengers Affiliation for 2025 in 45 minutes or less-ish. Hey guys, Rich from Rich Big Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastic. Well, welcome to this, another MCP video and the third in our series where we are breaking down each and every affiliation with the idea of that it is post-War of the Kings. All of the new crisis card changes have happened. So yeah, let's jump in and get into Avengers. Starting off, we're going to take a look at each leader in turn. And of course, we're starting off with the OG himself, Captain America, Steve Rogers, full stop. Doesn't need anything else on his name. Now, some feedback. Somebody did point out really well that we did a deep dive on each and every character of the game just recently. So we're not going to do deep dives on characters. I'm going to try and focus more on some of the other things around the affiliation itself. But I do want to take a look at Steve's leadership and do a little bit of a deep dive on this. So a day unlike any other. Each turn you may reduce the power cost of the first superpower used by each allied character by 1 to a minimum of 1. Very strong leadership, turns on a lot of things, especially round 1 where usually they are a power away to be able to get to them. So things like charges, throws and other such things. So very solid leadership and works with so many characters. There are nearly every character in the game can benefit of being under Steve's leadership, but as we're going to find out, some benefit more than others. Steve as a character himself, he is a bodyguard, right? That is what he does. Susceptible to mystic attacks, so that's something you want to be really wary of. On his flip side, he gets even stronger or even harder to take down. But yeah, overall, really solid character, much better than he used to be. Don't expect him to dish out too much damage himself, but he does have a little bit of displacement with his shield slam and with his strike, but overall very solid character. So let's take a look at the types of characters we want to be bringing with Steve and some pointers on the characters or some of the traits that we want to look for. So we're going to start with one of my favorite characters to bring under Captain America, and that is Cable. Since his glow up, Cable has got much better overall, but he has 2 things that we're really interested in. In fact, 3 things that we're really interested in. First of all, he generates an additional power per turn. So that techno-organic virus suppression is going to give him 1 extra power. And that's going to be really important, but we'll get to that in a moment. So what has he got? Well, he's got 2 superpowers that can benefit from Steve's leadership. We've got Body Slide by 1. This is going to be active, and this is going to be a range 2 place that would normally cost 2, but instead only costs 1 because of Steve's leadership. And we've also got Telekinetic Shield, which is a reactive. Basically, he gets to add dice into your opponent's defense dice. Would normally cost 2, under Steve's leadership will cost 1 if it's the first superpower that you've used this turn. Now you may be thinking, Rich, Cable has another superpower, Omega level threat, and this is the first little gotcha that I want to just go through. This is a really nice superpower, but unfortunately, because it's an X cost, Steve cannot reduce the cost of that superpower. And I also want to point out as well that timing is really important. Even though Steve can't reduce the cost of Omega level threat, if that's the first thing that you do with Cable, so you spend 3 power to throw a size 3 terrain piece, and then you use Body Slide by 1, it means you're not going to get that reduction in cost on Body Slide by 1 because it's not the first superpower you have used this turn. I also mentioned that midline extract grab, or maybe I didn't, but I did mention that extra power. And this is really important because Cable under Steve becomes a really nice round 1 midline extract grab. That range 2 place, that short move on the medium base, allows him to get up to that midpoint. He has a power left over to be able to pick up whatever it is he wants to pick up. And then he's got an action left to be able to move back, putting himself into relative safety, especially with where the game is at the moment. So we can also stack these superpowers. So let's take an example of Hulk being attacked, and you decide, actually, I don't want Hulk to take this attack. It's a physical attack. I want my Captain America to take it. So Captain America can spend 1 to bodyguard, would normally cost 2, but costs 1 because it's the first superpower that Steve has used this turn. And then if he wants to, and if he has the power, Steve can then boost his defense dice using Vibranium Shield, taking him from 4 up to 6. Already quite nice, but that will cost him the full 2 power because it's the second superpower that Steve has used this turn. Let's go back to Cable and look at Telekinetic Shield. Now this pretty much does the same thing for Steve. It's going to boost his defense by 2, but it's the same, it's a different character. Therefore, this is the first time Cable has used a superpower this turn, meaning that it will only cost 1. So even if you don't have the power for Vibranium Shield to boost Steve's dice, you can still boost them with Cable, putting him from 4 to 6. And if you've got all the power in the world on Steve, then you can boost them even further and take him from 4 to 8. So that chaining of reactives becomes really, really powerful under Steve Rogers and really allows you to do some pretty crazy things. Now let's take a look at another character who definitely benefits from Steve's leadership, but maybe not as much as you would first think. That's going to be Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman. Really, really nice character. And she's got the exact same active ability or active superpower as Cable has. Spend 2 power, place myself within 2. I don't fly, I glide. So again, under Steve's leadership, this is going to cost 1. Now, why is Cable a better choice than Jessica Drew? Well, first of all, Cable generates that extra power, so he's able to get to that midline extract. Jessica Drew isn't. Also, Spider-Woman does not have a reactive superpower that can benefit from Steve's leadership. Now, I know what you're saying. It's another one of these, Rich. What about Interrogate? Well, let's have a look and let's just break it down. So, it's a reactive. Perfectly fine. It costs 3 power, so there's a cost to it. At the start of the cleanup phase, if this character is within 2 of 1 or more days enemy characters, blah, 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 spend 3 power, gain an extra VP. Now, there's a key thing here. It is the cleanup phase. The cleanup phase is not a turn. Therefore, you do not benefit from Steve's leadership. So I just wanted to point out the ones that are the sort of gotchas. So we've gone through, priority and making sure you want to use the one you reduce first. And also it has to be within a turn, your or your opponent's. So something like Interrogate would not work. And X ones are not going to work whatsoever for Steve. Cable is still very, very good under Steve. And then lastly, let's take a look at a character that benefits not at all from Steve's leadership, and that's going to be Ant-Man. Ant-Man's always the example. Ant-Man's not a bad character, but if you look at the cost of his superpowers, the most they cost are 1. Therefore, Steve cannot reduce them because they can't go any lower than 1 cost. Let's go to the other side of the scale then. So we've got Captain America Steve Rogers, very defensive, putting on his bodyguard. Well, that is not what Captain America First Avenger is all about. If I had to categorize First Avenger Steve, I would say midline brawler is really where he sits. He's got those range 3 attacks. He's got a charge in there as well. But let's have a look at his leadership. Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Once per turn, when an allied character is attacking, during the modify dice step, if there are 1 or more hit results in the attack roll, it may spend 1 power. If it does, it changes one of its results to any other result. And let's use Steve as an example, okay? There are lots of attacks in this game that require what we call triggers. They require you to roll a particular dice or a particular set of dice to be able to trigger those extra things that attack does. So shield bounce, for example, Normally, it's a range 3 attack, strength 5, power equal to damage dealt. But if you get the bounce, which needs you to do a hit and a wild, it allows you to make that attack again to anybody else within range 3. Very, very strong, very, very powerful. And this leadership is all around turning on those triggers and maximizing what you do with each of those attacks. Now let's talk about the timings for this, because timings are very, very important when it comes to modifying dice. So it's once per turn. So you're not going to get to do this twice if you get to do 2 attacks. It's only once per turn, and it's only for one character. So even if you've got something that allows you to make an attack with multiple characters, only one of them are going to be able to benefit from this. Modified dice, when does that happen? So modified dice happens after the resolve crit stage. So you roll your initial dice, you explode your crits, and then you move to modified dice. Now, modifying dice has essentially 4 different stages to it. Step 1 is the attacking character modifies their dice. So that would be rerolls, and then anything else that you get to do. But now you get to choose the order of them. I would always recommend, if you have a reroll, you use your reroll first. You don't ever use this first of all. You use your reroll. Why? Well, you may reroll into what you want, meaning that you don't have to actually spend the power to be able to do this in the first place, or that reroll could actually unlock this leadership. Because if you don't have any hits and you reroll into a hit, that can then allow you to open up and use this leadership. So in terms of modified dice, your rerolls and your modifying like this, they're interchangeable. You can choose to do them in whichever order you want. Then your opponent modifies their dice. Then you modify your opponent's dice. Then your opponent modifies your dice. So this happens at the very, very beginning of the modified dice step. And as I say, interchangeable between these and rerolls. You can choose your option. I can't think of an example where you wouldn't use the reroll first, right? I genuinely can't think of an example why you would not use your reroll first. So there we go. So let's have a look at the types of characters that could benefit from this leadership. Now, it's fair to say that whilst we were talking about Steve 1's leadership, there are some examples of characters that just do not benefit from Steve 1's leadership. Every single character in the game can benefit from Steve 2's leadership or First Avengers leadership, because even if they don't have triggers, they can just do one extra result. But as you can imagine, some characters benefit more than that from others. So let's take a look then, and take a look at one of my favourite characters under First Avenger, at least Avengers character, and that is going to be Wolverine. I love Wolverine in this new world. So first of all, right off, we can see on that adamantium slash, where on a wild, we're going to be able to get a bleed and a pierce. So if we miss that wild, we can spend 1 power and we can turn into a wild, and that's going to do 2 things for us. It's going to give our opponent bleed, and it's going to pierce our opponent. So in this case, that 1 extra result that we're getting actually is a 2 positive, because we're actually removing one of our opponent's defense dice as well, which is, really, really nice. But he also has a superpower called the best at what I do. Spend 2 power, it's an action, it's a charge, but with a little something something on the end. When making this attack, each wild in the attack roll counts as 2 successes. And now this works on both his builder and his spender, but let's take it on his builder, right? So we roll our 5 dice and we fail to get a wild. We spend a power, and that wild's going to now do 3 things. It's going to give our opponent bleed, it's going to pierce, and it's actually going to count as 2 successes. So we're increasing exponentially the amount of damage that Wolverine can do whilst using the best at what I do. So I really, really like this one. A character who, again, is really good, but I think, doesn't benefit quite as much from it is Black Panther. So yes, his strike has no triggers on it. We can still use the leadership and we can get an extra result. It's typically going to give us our power back because one extra result should, in most instances, unless it's just a gainer and not a builder. Gainer is a flat one gainer. Builder is power equal to damage dealt. It's going to give us our power back. He's only got one trigger that he's looking for, and that's on his kinetic burst. Explosive force is pretty nice. You know, you push everybody else away too, and push everybody within 2 away short, and they suffer a damage. But it's often not that it's less impactful. There could be a situation in the game where you really, really want that, but you can see that stacking effect of how good it is on Logan versus how good it is on Black Panther. Maybe using Black Panther's own leadership of a reroll is a better way of being able to get that wild. Less consistent, but better. But as I say, every character in the game can benefit from Steve's leadership. It's just going to be how much they benefit from it. There are lots of other examples of characters outside of Affiliation who can benefit from First Avengers leadership. I'm not going to go through them all here, but really what you're looking for are triggers, and what you're looking for are those compounding effects. So like the best at what I do, Gamora's a really, really good example with Deadliest Woman in the Galaxy. Valkyrie's really, really good with her superpower that lets her count, I think it's wilds and crits, basically convert the dice into hits. Things like that, where you get this compounding stacking effect. And 2 triggers is also really, really good as well, right? So, that bounce on Steve, for example, needs not just a wild, he needs a hit and a wild. They're the types of characters that you want to be looking for under First Avenger. Now, these Steves do share a tactics card that they can both bring. It's Battle Plan. I really, really like this card. If I'm playing Avengers, I'm generally playing this card. Steve Rogers may spend 3 power during his activation. Steve and everyone within 3 gets to choose one of the following effects. Remove a special condition, remove a damage, place within 1. It's crazy good, right? A bump, removing a stagger or anything else like that, or just removing a damage is really, really nice. So if you're going to play either of those 2 leaders, I would recommend taking Battle Plan with you as well. They are not the only leaders of our beloved Avengers. We also have Mr. Sam Wilson, our 3rd Captain America. Now, Sam is an interesting leader in the game. He used to be the best leader in the game in terms of win rates and other such things like that. All new, all different. When this character or an allied character is dazed or KO'd, choose another non-dazed allied character. The chosen character removes 1 damage, removes 1 special condition, and may advance short. A character can be affected by this leadership ability only once per round. You may have heard the term Sam Spam. And this really was what it was about, taking as many characters as you could at your given threat level, sometimes up to 6, even 7 characters wide. It was crazy. And the idea is that you just scored out. You just had so many models on the board that you could score your opponent out. They could use his leadership. If somebody got knocked down, well, that was fine. Somebody else could go step back in their place, get onto that point, remove damage from themselves, remove special conditions from themselves, keeping up their survivability. And it worked really, really well for quite a while. In a world where we had big kaijus and actually going tall was the meta, Sam did drop off somewhat. So we saw less play of him. It's really difficult to say whether or not something like Sam Spam could be prevalent in the current meta of the current landscape. I hate using the word meta. So we will have to wait and find out. But what I will say about Sam Wilson is he is a great Avenger, and he works really, really well under either of the Steves. He's got his Ricochet, where he really wants to get that Ricochet off and get that damage through, because for Sam, it's not just about getting the ricochet for another attack. He also gets to displace the target character as well. And he's got a charge and airlift. So he's got an active. Now his reactive is going to be during his own turn as well. So again, you need to choose what you want to do. But for 3 power, he can do a charge and drop somebody off or airlift somebody up. And he does have that vibranium shield as well under Steve's one's leadership. So he is even if you're not using his leadership, he is a great Avenger to take with you. And I think almost all Avengers lists should be taking Captain America, Sam Wilson. He also brings a card, Birds of Prey. It's fine. It's nice. He gets to add dice to his attack roll against flight. Costs 2 power for 3 dice, but if he deals damage, they do lose that flight superpower until the end of the round. So it can be a little bit stifling for your opponent. And as we say, the types of characters that he wants to bring are en masse. He's looking at 3 threats. So he's looking at spamming those 3 threat characters to be able to take as many as possible, just to be able to overwhelm your opponent. You're never having priority with this guy, but don't worry too much about it. You're going to have so much presence on the board that you're going to be able to just outscore. Unless you come up against some big kaijus and characters who can daze 2 or 3 models in a single activation. So be very, very careful for that. Going up against things like Midnight Suns, Wakanda, where they all get to make attacks, can be absolutely brutal for a list like this because they can essentially, rip through you. Okay, and on to our final leader of the Avengers. It is going to be Hulkbuster. We did a deep dive on this guy. His leadership's not a full leadership. When an allied character would suffer damage from a collision, reduce the amount suffered by 1. If you're using the Hulkbuster's leadership ability when this character is put into play, you are still using it. Why does it have that? Well, he's got his little dude that comes out, Iron Man Hulkbuster, when he pops up. Yeah, Hulkbuster is not in a good spot. He's actually not a bad character. His leadership is really, really not good. That's one of his biggest problems. His biggest problem is him spitting out Little Iron Man, and then Little Iron Man just being so easy to take out, and it being so difficult to bring the Hulkbuster back. If you did want to take Hulkbuster, I'd be looking at characters that can reduce damage. So characters like Luke Cage. I mean, I've put War Machine in here. War Machine's not great. I used it as the example. This reduction does stack, but it is only collisions, remember. So you throw something into a Luke Cage. Let's say it's a size 4. He rolls 2 successes, so he's blocking 2 of them. He naturally reduces it by 1, and then you get the leadership to reduce by 1, meaning he only takes 2 damage. If that was a size 3, the way round you do it, you block 2, meaning there's 2 damage coming in. You then use Luke's unbreakable skin, so you reduce it by another 1 to a minimum of 1, and then Hulkbuster's leadership comes in. Yeah, I'm not going to go into detail, guys, around Hulkbuster on this video. If something changes, then I will dedicate a video to Hulkbuster. But right now, unless you really, really know what you're doing and you've got some tricks up your sleeve, I would stay away from the Hulkbuster because, yeah, he just isn't really viable at the moment. Okay, let's talk about tactics cards, because the Avengers do have some. Some are better than others. Anger management, damage your Hulk, not really good, not really played, would never really consider taking it. Second wind, situational, can be really good in certain circumstances. You'll see in a later on in the video. We've got Avengers Assemble. This is the cornerstone. And everyone gets to spend 1. They get to advance short. It's really, really good. You can use it as an opening gambit. You can use it to do turn 1 extract plays. You can use it to get people back onto points. Very, very solid card. But only Avengers characters can use it. Unless we've got reserve members. This is one of these cards that I really, really don't like. The card in itself is not bad, right? But you need to already be Avengers affiliated to be able to use this card. So for me, I'm rarely a fan of these types of cards. So yeah, there we go. So characters. I wanted to do something a little bit different for this because there are just so many characters in Avengers. I'm just going to go through and at every threat level, pick out my favourite for varying reasons. So starting off, 2 threats, it's Black Widow. She's our only 2 threat. She brings a really nice card, vertical assistance. It's pretty darn good. Captain America, Sam Wilson, is solid. But I feel like that's a little bit of a cheat because he's a leader. So I will say Luke Cage. I really, really like Luke Cage. Again, benefits in both Steve's leaderships. Street Fighter, so he can, do his throw for 1 less. Too dangerous to ignore. He can become the target of the attack for 1 less. This is a 3 threat character that on a double wild can stagger you. That is brutal. That's a builder as well. So that unto itself works really, really nice under Steve First Avenger. And then obviously on his Sweet Christmas, if you miss that wild, you can just bring that wild in to get the throw on there as well. He also brings Heroes for Hire. Absolutely amazing tactics card. So yeah, really, really like Luke Cage. Outside of the leaders, he's probably my favourite 3 threat. Iron Man very, very closely behind as well. That's the OG Iron Man, not the new 4 threat version. 4 threats were highly contested, but I think right now in the game, it's Shang-Chi. Like, for any leader under Avengers, it's Shang-Chi. He is just so good, so consistent. He's another character that can stagger on his builder. He's got a lot of movement. He doesn't have a spender, quote unquote, but 5 element fist does allow him to basically turn it into a spender. That 5 element fist, again, isn't going to work with Steve 1's leadership, but he's got that what is essentially a charge, right? But it's limited to 10,000 shapes, so you can spend 1, he gets to do the charge, and then after the attack is resolved, after he's gained some more power, he can then use 5 element fists to be able to do things. So works really, really well under both. He also brings his own dice modification as well in Chi Mastery. Spend 3 power, change 2 results in either the attack or defense roll to any other result. Crazily good. Just means that if there's a big character that you definitely want to stagger, you can stagger them. Or if there's a big character, and rather than staggering them, if changing 2 of their results to blanks for defense means that you daze or KO them, even better. But sometimes a stagger can be more effective than a daze or KO. 5 threats, no surprise here. Cable. I really, for 1 under Steve 1, I still really, really like. I think, but for me, Cable overall, he kind of does what I liked Doctor Strange doing. Yes, he doesn't have the heals, but just survivability of your team, and his damage output is really, really nice as well. So he gets my thumbs up. I just wish we could use cat and mouse. I wish that was a cable only card. That would be really, really nice. 6 threats, absolutely no surprise here, guys. It's Hulk. I mean, we've got Hulk, She-Hulk, and Hulkbuster to choose from. Yeah, it's Hulk every single day of the week. Other 6 threats that work really well under any of the Steves. I mean, Gladiator is going to be exceptionally good, but I would, for me, still rather take Bruce Banner Hulk as my 6th threat of choice. Okay, so now with all that done and said out of the way, let's jump over and take a look at the two rosters that I've built, because I did build 1 for each of the Steves. I thought that would work better just to give you an idea of each of them. Okay, guys, here we go. This is going to be our Steve 1 list. every single character is an Avenger with the exception of one. And I did change this last minute. I was trying to think of a way to get a really, really good 16 threat in. And when I said Gladiator with Hulk beforehand, I was like, yeah, do you know what? Gladiator is really, really good. So we did put him in. But we've got Captain America, Steve Rogers, obviously, star of the show. But blacking him up, we've got Black Widow, Cable, Captain America, Sam Wilson, Hulk, Iron Man, Luke Cage, Shang-Chi, Thor, Prince of Asgard. Thor can still do a really, really good job. I would say of all of these, Thor is the one that I would swap out. Black Panther's really, really nice. You could also go with another 3 threat, should you wish. I feel like 3 is more than enough. You could take another 4 threat, but again, we've already got Shang-Chi. And are you ever playing 3, 4 threats? Maybe, maybe not in this list. And then, as I say, Gladiator. So let's start off then at 16 threat. We've got these guys. And that is scary as hell. Gladiator, just being able to keep him not even necessarily alive. His stamina pool is so high, but the fact that when he takes damage, he loses those tokens. The fact that we can reduce the cost of his stuff. So we're going to be able to do his charge turn 1 is absolutely brutal. And because we're taking the damage on Steve, it means we're not taking the damage on Gladiator, which means we're not going to be losing those tokens as frequently. I think this is a very, very scary 16 threat. I feel like, Steve and Hulk are kind of my core in this, so giving me a core of 10. So then you build it up from there, right? So 17 threat, depending on what it looks like, we could take a Thor and a Black Widow. Black Widow I want to talk about for a moment because she is so good. She can walk up, take an extract, walk back to a backline point, and just sit there the entire game. Really, really good. She's got the stealth as well, meaning that she's much, much harder to take out. Martial artist means that if somebody does get within range, she is potentially going to have some extra dice. So I really, really like that. Cable, we've already spoke about. We could mix it up even further. We could go with Shang-Chi and then have Iron Man as our back point holder. Iron Man with that push on that repulsor blast. Friday AI, being able to reduce that to a cost of 1, meaning that we're going to be making, on this side of his card, it's just his repulsor blast and homing rockets. On the other side of his card, that's his unibeam. That means for 5 power, we're going to be able to do 8 dice unibeams, which is just absolutely crazy, but another great back point holder. And then, as I say, we've got Luke Cage in there, who I just think is both too dangerous to ignore and too good to take. And then also Captain America as well. Going up to 18 threat, again, we've got lots and lots of options. We could take something like this. Let me check. That is 18. No, that is 17. There you go. There's another 17 threat option for you. But we could take something like this at 18 threat, depending on what the setup is. We've got the option then to lean back into Gladiator and take Black Widow. And again, we've got a lot of movement. We've got midline extract play with Cable. We've got lots and lots of things at our disposal. Very, very versatile. The ones that I've chosen, the crisis cards that I've chosen, Deadline to Destruction, this is really there for that 16 threat mashup where we're going to be fighting. Infinity Formula goes missing. Again, it's a wider map, but we've got strong enough characters that 17 threat on a B map that we can get to them very, very easily. And again, that extra power and that power reduction is just going to compound for us. And then Superpowered Scoundrels. Our characters are either want to be up close and personal, the likes of, Shang-Chi, who else have we got up close and personal? Hulk, obviously, up close and personal with attacks. Thor, up close and personal with his attacks. So we don't care about the ambush. We don't care about the the contesting an ambush, giving them cover. And then for those that are, well, Steve ignores line of sight and cover, and Sam Wilson ignores line of sight and cover. Cable gets to, re-roll his dice if he's within 3 anyway. So even though he's a range 5, you don't mind him being up close and personal within range 2. So I do like that one as well. Deadly Legacy Virus, Fear Grips, and Unexpected Wedding. A couple of midline extract grabs. Well, we already know we've got plays for those. Plus an Unexpected Guest. I like this one, so you're not forced to play that midline extract grab play. It means that you can take this in the confidence that you can use, somebody like a Black Widow to run up, pick up a point, and then run back to, obviously this is our card, but, run back to a Superpowered Scoundrels or just stay on point for the Infinity Formula or something like that. Cards that we've brought along, Avengers Assemble. You don't leave home without it. We've got Battle Plan, Brace for Impact, Chi Mastery, Heroes for Hire, Patch Up. Ricochet Blast is crazy, crazy good. This also stacks with his, what's it called? Friday AI. So just so good. Stark Armory. Tony, Iron Man is a bit more of a back point holder, but if he does have power to dump, because he does generate quite a bit of power, just gives everyone an extra die in their attack rolls, which can be really, really nice. And then Survival. I've taken Survival just for the off chance that we don't play 3 tall on a 16 map, and we are 4 wide, and we come up against somebody who is not even just on a 16, but we end up building a taller team than our opponent. A wider team than our opponent, because we can flex into Sam Wilson with this list. It's not optimal, but we can flex into it if we want. So Survival's there just to try and keep a key character alive. So yeah, solid list. I think... Are they ever going to be the best affiliation in the game? No. But they're a great affiliation and a lot of fun can be had with them. So yeah, I really, really like Steve 1 Avengers. Okay, let's take a look then at Steve 2 Avengers. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, guys, so here we go. Here is my Captain America First Avenger list. Now, what I would say is this is not optimal. What I've tried to do is show you, again, the types of characters and some other things that we want to benefit from. So we've upgraded the 2-threat Black Widow to the 4-threat Black Widow. She's got lots of triggers that she needs on her card. Very, very solid character. Gamora we'll get to in a moment. Invincible Iron Man. This is going to be a far more attrition-focused list. So that Jarvis allowing us to reroll, modify attack dice is going to stack really, really nicely with that first Avenger. Iron Fist. This is our midline extract play. Iron Fist is a great midline extract play. He generates 2 power a turn. You can use Avengers Assemble, and then he can make a medium move. He's got a power left to pick it up, and then he's got a medium move back. So really, really nice. Luke Cage, as we've already spoke about, just solid. Shang-Chi, again. Wolverine we went through. So then let's go through the splash characters, because I put a few more in here. Why is Wong there? Well, Wong is there because, A, we don't have a 2-threat. And as we've seen, not every turn is going to be a midline extract grab. We might not even have priority. Wong does a couple of things really, really well. First of all, we're not really benefiting a huge amount from Cap's leadership, but we're able to turn on things. We can have this duff turn or this sort of non-turn with Wong that's a little bit like passing, but during that, what we're able to do is generate some extra power and then dish that power out to any of our other characters. So let's have a look who could benefit from this. Well, Steve's got a charge, so giving him an extra power turn 1 turns on his charge. Wolverine has a charge, we can do that. Shang-Chi has a charge, we can do that. Spider-Man Miles Morales has web swing, we can turn that on. So we're able to feed power into characters turn 1, so that turn 2 they can make a move and a charge or something else, a move and then attack or something like that. Gamora we touched upon. Deadliest woman in the galaxy. When this character makes an attack, it may change one die result to a hit for each wild in the attack roll. So you roll 5 dice, or you roll 6 dice even, for Godslayer. You get 1 hit. You get 5 blanks and 1 hit. You can spend a power and turn that 1 hit into a wild. And then that wild can turn another fail or another blank into a hit. So you've netted 2. So 2 extras basically. So really, really nice. Stacks really, really well with it. Gamora's damage output under Steve 1 is just absolutely crazy. Miles has that throw. He has got a size 3 throw on a 3-threat character. We've already spoke about how broken this is. Why not make the most of it whilst it still exists if they ever get rid of it? So yeah, works really, really well with him. Let's have a look then at what we've taken. We've taken Deadline to Destruction because we are going to be far more attrition based. Mayor Fisk, you'll see why in a moment. We've already got characters or a character that is immune to stun, but you'll see why in a moment we're taking that. Wedding Party, I don't mind a big fight at 20 threat, and I think we've got enough fight to be able to take down big characters. Wolverine, if he pops off, can pop off huge. Alien Ship, some midline extract grabs there as well. But again, we've got some extra damage that's coming from there. Fear Grips, it's hammers, right? We're always going to be taking hammers if we're playing attrition. And then again, Unexpected Wedding Guest, just so a couple of reasons for this one. So we don't have to do a midline extract grab, and it forces our opponent to stay within 2 of secure objectives if they want to score those bonus 1VPs per turn. Avengers Assemble and Battle Plan, standard. Brace for Impact Patch Up, Chi Mastery Heroes for Hire. They're all cards that we've seen before. We went Recal just in case we do need it. Second Wind is exclusively for the use within Mayor Fisk. Stark Armory again, and then Warpath, just to be able to get some extra movement. If we do get displaced off a point, we can get back onto a point. I would say there's a lot more flexibility in this leadership. I'm less concerned about taking Avengers characters with this one. What I would probably say is there's a lot of overlap. I think an optimal list would be taking both Steves. There's characters in here that you can drop. Wolverine works really well under either Steve. Shang-Chi works really well under either Steve. Luke Cage works really well under either Steve. Miles Morales surprisingly works very well under either Steve. So there's a lot of really, really good things we can do with Avengers. Very, very flexible. And what I like about Avengers is they're a low entry point, but the ceiling on them is quite high. Is it as high as other affiliations? No. I don't think Avengers are a top tier affiliation, but if you learn to use them and learn to use them well, there are lots and lots of things that you can do with them. And what's nice is you can grow and add in characters without changing that core too much, and bring in different characters as they're released to be able to do different things. Any new character is going to be able, any broken new character is more than likely going to be able to slip into Steve 1's leadership. And if he's 6th threat and 16th threat is the highest threat that we've got, great, because you take Hulk, Steve 1, and your other 6th threat or 7th threat or whoever it may be. Guys, we're going to leave it there. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. This was a little bit longer. This was more like 45 minutes rather than 30 minutes of talk time. Ignore the bit at the beginning and the bit at the end, but hopefully you did find it useful. Hopefully you're finding these series useful. Keep giving me feedback. I did try and change this up a little bit, talk more around tactics and why we're taking what, rather than just character breakdowns of this character is really good, which I may have fallen into in the first couple. Guys, I want to give a big shout out to all of our Patreons and YouTube members. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. It does really mean the world, and you just help the running of the channel. It just makes it so much easier. And if you do want to support us, you can do so from as little as £1 a month. Link down in the description below for Patreon, join button for YouTube members. But as always, you don't need to do either of those things. Just simply liking, commenting, subscribing really does help. Guys, check out the Discord. It's a great place to go and check out all your events. I'm going to be posting our March event today, and you're going to have until the end of the week to sign up. So go and check that out if you want to join in and try out some of these lists. And as always, guys, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.